What's up, everybody? I'm Dave Miranda, and this is episode 135 of Just Give Me 5. I hope you guys are doing great, continue to be amazing. We got a really awesome show lined up for you today. But first things first, I need you to hit that like button, I need you to hit that subscribe, and I need you to spread the word about Just Give Me 5. All right. If you guys caught episode 134, you saw we had none other than the one and only Strickland of EMC. And let me tell you, boy, that was just such an awesome adventure that we took. You know what I'm saying? It started off with Trill. Got to shout out my man Chuck. He brought Master Ace and Marco Polo. Strickland was along with them for the ride. And, you know, we chopped it up, man. We ended up knowing a lot of mutual individuals in Milwaukee, where he's from. My man Daryl D pulled up. We had a really, really good time. And I was like, yo, we need to get you on the show. He was like, yo, we're going to be in town for a couple more days. You know, maybe we can make it happen. So long story short, Jimmy and I pulled up to their Airbnb, and Marco and Master Ace were over there chilling, and we knocked out the interview. It was a really, really amazing Monday, one that we'll never forget. And man, thank you so much for being a part of our platform, my brother. It was an honor to have you on the show talking about the Milwaukee history and the rest of the development, the whole nine. So make sure you guys watch episode 134, and shout out to you, Strickland. All right. But today's guest is one of the pioneers in the graffiti culture and is a true legend who definitely deserves his flowers. We're going to talk about what made him get into graffiti and where he got the inspiration from, as well as his TMB crew, the Master Blasters. We're going to talk about some incredible moments, what he's got going on next, and so much more. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I present to you SAR.
What's up, fellas? All I'm saying is just give me 5. SAR TMB. There's a lot of things that inspired me about graffiti. I'm constantly inspired by graffiti. And it saved my life a few times, both mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and financially.
Yeah.
But, you know, I was inspired as a kid. You know, I lived off of Jamaica Avenue in Queens, and the J train went by my house. I had to walk towards it to go to school as a kid. And two of my older friends on my block, they were a little bit older than me, Satch and Psych. You know, they were hitting the trains, and they both motivated me.
Okay, and around this time, this was what, 77?
Well, I started writing graffiti in 1977. Satch started about 77, 76, and Psych started 75.
Okay.
So they were older than me, and Psych had an S name, and I wanted to have an S name, so that's why I came up with my name. You know, my name, I was in social studies class, I was in, like in the 7th grade, and they were talking about the Tsar of Russia and the Tsar of China, TSAR, CZAR, right, and they were kings. Yep. And graffiti was about being a king. So I started to adopt the letter S from Psych, so I did a SZAR. So I was pronouncing it SAR, and they were pronouncing it Caesar and Cesar, so I dropped the Z and just became SAR, because I wasn't going to drop the letter S, because I already knew how to do the letter S.
Right.
You know, it was a vocation, you know.
Exactly.
You know, you got to remember, when I started, there was no internet, there was no Style Wars, there was no videos, there was no internet, there was no graffiti magazines, there was no graffiti books, there wasn't designer paint, low-pressure spray paint to do nice designs. It was raw.
Yeah.
And it was a culture taught by the older kids to the younger kids, passed on. And you either succeeded at it or you failed. And, you know, it was a child's bid at immortality, you know. Right. And, you know, you were a faceless kid in a big city trying to make a name for yourself and be part of something bigger than you.
Exactly.
You know?
You remember the first train you hit?
Yeah, I do. First time I went on the trains, well, I did a lot of motion tagging, which means you would ride the train from station to station. And back in the day, you used to do insides, which were marker tags inside the trains. New York City subway insides. Yeah. And we used minis, Marvies, Pilots, Flow Pens, Nijis, El Marcos, whatever markers that we had at our time. We even made homemade markers out of stolen erasers from school. Take a lead pipe, bend the end of it, stuck the felt from the erasers from school, ink them up, and have these throwaways that we used to bomb with. But yeah, I started doing insides in 1977. First time I went to the layup, Psych and Rocky won. Took me to the J layup, which was an elevated layup.
Okay.
So it's 2 stories above the street level, and you walk out on a 5-board catwalk, and there's a center track where the train is parked. So you walk out to where the train is, parallel to you. Then you had to walk across and possibly fall to your death 2 stories down.
Wow.
Then you had to stand and climb over a 3rd rail, because there's 2 third rails, one on each side.
Yeah.
And then set up your cans and start to paint, and then wait for the uptown or downtown train coming at you. Make sure you got underneath the train while the trains came by, because if they saw you, they'd pull the horn or radio in that you were in the train tracks, and then it would send the transit police to get you.
Right.
So it was a whole adventure. It wasn't, it's not like these kids today, no offense to some of them, they go on a wall in their backyard. Every Friday they take their mother's credit card and buy the best purples, the best greens, do a very pretty piece, take 16 hours to do it, and post it all over the internet. And look, I'm famous. Look, I have style.
Right.
But who are you? Who are you in the graffiti movement? Who are you as far as the culture is concerned? What did you ever do to make a difference?
Right.
If I never do another piece the rest of my life, I'm not bragging. I'm part of the history.
Exactly.
I'm part of the history. 46 years later, I'm still here. I'm still doing my thing. Yeah. So it's a lot different. So you had high pressure paint, and then you had 10,000 riders trying to take the same Fed purple and Fed green that you were trying to get.
Right. Right.
So if I went to the store, a hardware store, I got 2 reds in this store, a brown in this store, and a yellow in this store, I said, okay, I got 2 browns, a yellow, and a red. Okay, 2 browns are going to be my fill-in, the yellow is going to be a 3D, and the red's going to be my outline. Whatever you appropriated, you used.
Yeah.
Whatever you racked up, you used. It wasn't, you didn't have the luxury. You go into the store, and especially it was a hot rack where people were racking up paint.
Yeah.
As soon as you walked in, the guy, can I help you? Follow you around the store, you're out. So you had to be in and out to rack up your paint. We didn't have any money to buy spray paint.
Of course, yeah.
There was no credit cards.
Right.
Come on. So so I have a lot of respect for my era. I still have respect for the artists today. I love the fact that it's still alive. They thought it was going to be dead.
Right.
They thought it was going to be a fad, and we were done, and that was it, and it kept on going. So now, to me, the only raw aspect that's left is the subway freights. It's the freights. The subways, there are still a lot of people still painting the subways, but the lifespan of a piece on the New York City subway or the Chicago rail systems is a day or 2. They pull it out of service, they clean it, and it's gone.
Right.
It's gone. So on a freight, I could do a freight, it'll turn up in South Carolina 3 years from now, and it's rolling. There's thousands of freights. It's unfathomable how many freight trains there are compared to, like, New York City subway. You knew how many cars there were. You knew where the yards were. There was only so many cars, and intermittently guys would go over each other, or your stuff would get dissed or buffed.
Yeah.
For people that don't know what that means,
right.
cleaned, or they went over your mural that you painted.
Right.
So, the lifespan was a little bit longer on the old New York City subways, but the freights, there's just so many freights. You could do a piece and never see it again, and it just could end up anywhere. So the dynamics are a lot different. Plus the paint, you had to learn how to use spray paint. And, you didn't go on Amazon or eBay and get your fat caps.
Exactly.
We went to the supermarket,
Right.
Jif foam oven cleaner. We used to take the cap off, take it off with our mouth, and then walk out like a chipmunk with a mouth full of caps.
Right.
That's how we used to do it.
You had to do it, though.
Wood saver, Scotch Guard, those were the cans, Niagara spray starch. That's how we got them. I still have a lot of those old caps. I should have brought some for visual aids. I've done that on a couple other shows. That was on the Museum of Graffiti show. I showed them some of the actual caps that we used to use.
Yeah.
But the spray paint wasn't meant for writing or drawing. The pressure was high pressure. So you had to know, you do 1 dot on a high pressure spray paint, it just runs down the wall.
Right.
You had to have a deftness and a skill to learn how to use it. And you got to remember too, today you have a graffiti writer that starts writing graffiti at 25, 30 years old. Unheard of.
Yeah.
This is the only artwork in the history of art that was created by children.
Exactly.
Graffiti was created by children.
Right.
Okay? Like, I was 12 years old when I started writing graffiti. I was 12 years old.
I was going to get to that.
Yeah,
Okay, so
I was 12 years old. I was 12 years old. 12 years old before I turned 13 is when I started writing graffiti, right? And by the time I was 18 in New York City, the discos were happening.
Yeah.
Girls, as soon as you got with a girl, you don't want to know about no spray paint. It's a Friday night. You're going to sit in the yards waiting for the trains to pull in the bushes with spray paint. Like my friend Ghost, my friend Ghost says, I'm sitting in the bushes. Everyone's at the prom,
You're right.
dating girls, looking to get lucky. I'm in the fucking weeds with a bag of fucking spray paint.
Right.
I'm sorry if I got to clean it up. I got a bad mouth. And I'm waiting for the train to come in. I'm looking at the sweeper, waiting for him to finish sweeping the train so I can go in and paint my graffiti. And like, what is this madness about? It's an addiction.
You know, and this was so, for it being so young at the time, what was the punishment like if you got caught?
Back then, you used to get what they used to call a youth delinquent. You used to get a YD card, or then you become a juvenile delinquent, JD. And after like three grabs, you go to Spofford, which was like a juvenile detention center.
Okay.
And that was another thing that they used to have back in the day. I don't even know if they still have that shit, but that's the way it was back then.
Yeah.
Most of the time, the transit cops like to give you a beating. You know, they would spray paint your face blue. Go show your mother. You know, especially when you were little.
Right.
You know,
Like Sean Penn did in Colors.
Yeah, stuff like that. That was true back then.
Yeah.
I got caught crossing the tracks one time with spray paint, and the cop didn't pat me down, and I still had only two cans in my belt. You know, I was a skinny little mother, and I had the shit tucked in there, and had my little brown bomber and my green hoodie. I don't remember.
Yeah.
And me and this kid, Bobby, were crossing the tracks, and he grabbed us, and he's like, "You're gonna get electrocuted." And he was more worried about us running. He didn't really talk about the graffiti aspect of what we were doing. He was like, "You hit that third rail, you're dead, kid." You know. So he brought us to the bottom of the station. He kicked me in my ass. He kicked Bobby in his ass. Says, "If I see you up on my station again, next time you're going to jail." So we took off. Like, but most of the time when you were younger, they give you a smack because the cops would be, you know, if they walk in with two kids like this, the other cops would just laugh at them. Right. "Oh, what'd you catch, John Dillinger today?"
Right.
Yeah,
Big deal.
Like what are you doing with these fucking kids?
Right, exactly.
You know, and they wouldn't get no respect from their coworkers, so they wouldn't like to take us in.
Right.
But you know, as you get older, I grew pretty quick. I was a big kid, so I started to grow pretty quickly. And then it was like, I remember one time I was sneaking on a train station. The elevated station has a staircase that goes up to the tracks, and then there's a thing they call it the carpet. It keeps the rain off the people. Okay. So you stand on the banister of the staircase and then climb up there, and you'd run up, and then you'd end up on where the level with the tracks, and then you climb up on the station. Right. You don't have to pay your fare. Okay. So we'd come out there. Sometimes the police would see us running up there, and they'd call over the radio, "Get out there," over the bullhorn, "Get down from there." Yeah. You know, stuff like that. But to me, you know, graffiti was about being, you know, you were a fan of graffiti. Otherwise, you would have never done it. Like, you look at this and say, "I like that. How did you do it?" Or you had a friend that was doing it that said, "Hey," they wanted to take you under the wing and show you, like I did. Like Syke would show me what he was doing, and you know, I wanted to be like him. And he was 3 years older than me, and showing me the ropes. He was 15, I'm 12. All right, I want to do that. Then take me for my markers, you know, the unis. They were like a paintbrush. They would tag these calligraphy. It's like a calligraphy marker. It had a straight line like this, with a tip like this, and you'd flood it, and then you do these tags this big. They were unbelievable markers to use. It's like the kind that you see that make the signs in like Home Depot and stuff. Oh, okay, they're like poster type markers.
Right.
Yeah. So the insides is like your gateway. You were based, you know, if you were a toy, you didn't have a good tag. Like today, the kids write their names, they do these tags, and there's no style. Like tagging was your entry into the graffiti world. If you had a good tag, you got noticed, and your tag has to be a stamp like you throw up. Yeah. Your piece could change your style. Your piece could, you know, evolve. Yeah. There's simple style pieces, wild style pieces, bubble style pieces. Right. When you want to do something big and you just want everybody to see your name, you do straight letters, boom, or TikTok left and right, SAR. I would do the SAR, sarcastic, sardine, whatever, you know, large stuff. And then, you know, you do your wild style pieces, and then you do your bombing. Your bombing was just about getting your name up as much as you could. Yeah. big throw up bubble style, and that's a stamp. Your throw up is your stamp. My throw up hasn't deviated in 46 years. It's the same. Same thing with my tag. My tag deviates a little bit here and there, but overall it's the same. And that's the basis of graffiti. Those things should be a staple, should be the same always. Where a piece, you know, we had a saying back in the day, like I see a lot of freight train riders, I'm not going to embarrass anybody and name names, but there's some guys that do the same exact outline on every piece. We used to call that running your style. You got to change up the letters. Change up, do a lowercase a in the SAR, do a uppercase A on the SAR. You know, you change it around. And a lot of people will run their style. It's almost like they have an outline that's a stamp and then just change the colors inside. Yeah. And it's like when you see that over and over again, it's like listening to your favorite song. Yeah. You hear it over and over again, eventually what? You don't hear it. If I see the same style over and over again, eventually I don't see it. Right. It's like if I'm scrolling through my Instagram or Facebook or whatever venue I'm on, it's like I don't even stop because it's the same shit. Over and over, running his style. Back in the day, we used to say, he's running his style, man. Running that shit over and over again. It's reruns, man, and people don't like that shit. I mean, I don't. I mean, some people, I just feel bad. I will say this, it's harder for a younger person that's writing together today to get fame. Yeah. How do you get famous? Like back in the day, you took over a line. You took over at Insights. You became, there was a king of throw-ups, a king of bombing, a king of wild style, king of top to bottoms, an all-city king that went from borough to borough and it was on every train line. You had a lot of different aspects to it. Today with the freights, it's like, all right, if I do a different style, maybe I won't get noticed. So it's the pressure of trying to, that quest for fame that I think that everybody has in some point of their graffiti career or longevity that they're writing. You know, it's the notability. So how am I going to get noticed? Okay, now you got these guys, they're propelling off the side of buildings, writing their name in the mid, you know, with grappling hooks. Right. You know, people right on, you know, the top of the World Trade Center or the Empire State Building, because you know, the avenue to get fame has been it's taken away because the trains are clean in a lot of the cities. Right. The freights, to me, are the final frontier. And once they start buffing them, which they do, they restamp them. If you have kids using tape to go over the numbers, because the numbers, if you go over the numbers, they basically take a stencil and paste it right over your piece. You know? You know, and the difference, too, is that because, like me growing up out here, right, growing up out west, there was a serious differentiation between New York graffiti and West Coast, you know, L.A., Arizona, you know, South. I was one of the first people that came out here. I came out here in 1990 in L.A., and I wrote with Dream, Ocho, Frame, Power, all the original OGs from California. I remember when Risky was just starting out, he was bombing the highways. Like, I went out to L.A. with Cav in 1990, and we hooked up with those guys. And then they came to New York, we took them with us painting. You know, I'm still friends. I still keep in touch with a few of the guys. Dream passed away. Yeah. I keep in touch with Ocho. I talk to King 157 a lot too, which I met later on. Right. But he knows, he's from that era, and he knows a lot of those OGs. Like, you know, Charlie Ocho, and I hung out with these guys. Yeah. You know, it was funny. Someone recently was talking about Power because he was on the cover of the Freight Train book that just was reissued. Okay. It's like a Bible for freight train graffiti. Yeah. And he's on the cover. Nice. So one of the guys is like, look, you know, Porn, which was Charlie Ocho, and Power on the cover, you know. And I was like, you know, I wrote with both those guys. I go, me and Power went to see Third Base on the Arsenio Hall show in 1990. It's on YouTube. If you look at it, MC Search sits next to me, and me, Cav, and Power and my ex-wife are sitting in the front row. Wow. You know, it's funny, but like I like the vibe of Arizona. Arizona embraces it. Yeah. You know, you have a lot of murals here, like Lalo Cota. He does a lot of nice murals out here. Mm-hmm. And my boy Zokes, he does a lot of nice murals out here. Yep. You know, Champ and his father, they do a lot of murals out here. There's a lot of muralists here that have graffiti origins. You know, or they go into other venues like my buddy Mondo does tattoos, you know, Feist. But it transpired into something else that's positive in their lives that they can make a living with or whatever. But like, to me, graffiti, like I've been, my work is is displayed all over the world now.
Yeah.
And it's people that are retrospective about it. It reminds them of their childhood. They're excited about it.
Of course, yeah.
You know, and they talk about graffiti, and they think about the old days, and you know, who's still around? A lot of us are gone. A lot of us are dead.
Right.
A lot of guys have drug problems, and they're out of the mix. So, you know, they talk to me. I'm like somewhat of an historian.
Yeah.
And I give them the truth the way I know it. If I don't know it, I don't know it. But if I know, I will answer you truthfully.
Absolutely.
I brought a lot of old-time artists out here. I brought Cavs. I brought Ghost. I brought Part from the Death Squad out here. Part did a mural here. You know, I brought a lot of the old school guys. And Chuck House that does Trill here in Phoenix.
Yes.
He's helped me with the venue and where we brought the artists down and got you know, exposure to the kids here, let them see some of the old school guys. So I thought that was a really good program. We were doing that for a while. But you know, its truest form is always going to be on the trains for me. This week, you know, I painted at the Arizona State Fair. I had a piece in Diamondback Stadium for Hispanic Heritage Month.
Nice.
And then I have another piece that's downtown in a gallery that's showing called the Love Letter Show. So I have a lot of different venues, but most of my fans, a lot of my fan base is Europe still, and you know, they'll try to reach out to me through Instagram to get a piece of history, a piece of my work, and I tell everybody I don't sell my work, or I don't get invited to things like this because I'm a great artist. I have no artistic training whatsoever. I learned on the street, you know, hit and miss, self-taught, under the tutelage of other writers, and I passed down whatever I had to other writers. And that's how this thing evolved and alive today. People look at some of the old photos that I might post on my Instagram, and they'll go, oh God, that's horrible. I'm like, dude, without them, there's no you.
Exactly.
You know, like, you know, Tracy 168, perfect example. He coined the words wild style. He started the Wild Style crew. I still have my Wild Style membership card. It's 35 years old, right? I still have my card. Like, to me, and they make movies Wild Style. They have library cards they sell that say Wild Style on it, T-shirts. Tracy don't get any of that.
Right, yeah.
They all rip them off, you know. And oh yeah, and the actual words Wild Style was about a burner. You know, you had a simple piece or a wild style. It's part of the verbiage of the culture. Even in hip hop, it's part of the verbiage.
Yeah.
And then hip hop, like people always tie in hip hop. It's part of it. It's not an end. When I started writing graffiti, there was no hip hop.
Right.
You know, you know, they say hip hop is 50 years old. Maybe because Jimmy Cast the Bunch came out with Just Begun in '73, but it wasn't made for breakdancing then. It was reintroduced later. To me, the words hip hop came from the Sugar Hill Gang. That song came out in '78, '79.
Yeah.
That's when hip hop was born. To me, the words hip hop, that's where it was devised. Graffiti was before that. When I was writing graffiti, people were listening to the Rolling Stones and Ozzy Osbourne and you know, the Temptations, you know, shit like that. Earth, Wind and Fire, Chicago, you know, that was like the '70s vibe, you know. So I lived it. Style Wars, we're lucky to have Style Wars because it's a time capsule of what was going on in New York City as breakdancing and hip hop was evolving into the graffiti movement. It actually shows the transition of the two kind of marrying up together, and it's a snippet of 1982, what was actually happening in 1982. There are some graffiti artists that are depicted in Style Wars that might have painted 2 or 3 pieces.
Yeah.
That the rest of the world thinks they're some kind of a king. No,
Right.
not true.
Right.
And I'm not discrediting it, but I'm not going to be fake. I'm not going to piss on your back and tell you it's raining outside.
Right.
I'm as real as a heart attack.
Right.
Okay, you know, Style Wars made 2 of my friends, Richie, Scene, and Ali, Scheme, household names. It made the movie flow. As a person that's in the business, you'd appreciate 2 characters like that make it entertaining. You could have a guy like, you know, I don't want to name names, but just sit there, oh yeah, right on trains, okay, yeah, I'm the king, yeah, boring.
Right.
You have personalities like Scheme and Scene, it made it entertaining, right? And they're both great artists, and I'm not saying anything bad about them,
Yeah,
but I'm just saying there was 10,000 artists before them.
Yep.
10,000. And those guys like Scene got his style from Billy 167, not even mentioned in Style Wars. Maybe they showed one of his trains go by. You know, Comet, Blade, you know, household names.
Yeah.
These guys did 10,000 pieces before Style Wars was even created.
Right.
And then you have guys in Style Wars that did 2, 3 pieces. So I'm glad, I'm thankful that somebody froze that little time capsule in time. Yeah. But like, I had conversations with Henry Chalfant, who made Style Wars. He's a friend of mine. And I was like, all you did was film this one little pocket in the South Bronx.
Yeah.
You didn't, I'm from Queens.
Right.
I was born in Brooklyn.
Oh, the chapter there.
Brooklyn and Queens. Guy hits me up today from the Bronx. Yo, sorry, man, you got to make a book about Queens and Brooklyn, man. You know, this guy TL1 made a book about 2 years ago, and he bought the slide collection from this old guy that was taking photographs of trains that just happened to have graffiti on them in the 70s. So he was able to publish a lot of pieces that were forgotten about and other writers that were kings that were even spoken about. Yeah. You know, like Iz and Satch are in Style Wars because they used to go to New Lots in Brooklyn, which was the 2s and 5s, which traveled into the Bronx. Because their primary line was the A line, which ran from Queens to Brooklyn into Manhattan. Yeah. Didn't touch the Bronx. Otherwise, if they didn't hit New Lots, they wouldn't even probably been used in the movie. That's what I'm trying to say. Right. So Henry actually made an apology in the 10th anniversary of Subway Art, saying that he was sorry that, you know, he didn't have the ability or the context to do a cohesive book on all of graffiti. And no one ever will. You could touch upon it. There's always going to be one writer that says, yeah, what about this guy? You know, what about Duke 9? What about Fane? What about Psych? Never mentioned, right? Yeah. Did hundreds of trains, were all city bombers. Right. Never mentioned. So what I do on my blogs, on my Instagram, I'll show a couple of pictures of their pieces and I'll speak about them. And all of a sudden it's like, SAR, we love the history. SAR, tell me more, tell me more. Yeah. I do it, I don't do it all the time, I do it intermittently, but I'm trying to like chronologically put something together so eventually when I do sit down and digitize my 10,000 negatives and make a book, I'll be able to tell the story. But I still write stuff down now as I'm getting older, believe me, because I'm old, you know. I try to memorialize as much as I can. I really try to mention the guys that aren't here anymore, you know, and keep my friends alive. And to me, that's important. But don't try to make, you know, don't try to attach yourself to something that you're not, you know. A lot of people use a spray can as an artistic tool. Doesn't mean they're a writer. Doesn't mean that, just because you can do something beautiful with a spray can on a wall, you're not me. Right. You're not part of what I did. Yeah. You're just using the same, you're using a can of Krylon, I'm using a can of Krylon. I was a graffiti artist, you're a muralist. Yep. To be a writer and to be what I am, you had to be down with a crew. You had to have a name that you owned. Yep. You had to get up. Yep. You had to write for some kind of longevity, some kind of time. Yep. I walked away from graffiti a few times in my life. You know, but I always showed up at the Old Timers event. I always had my foot in the door somewhat. And then when I came back, because I wasn't totally burnt out, I came back with a vengeance. Right. And I've done that over and over. It was like, okay, over and over. When I came out here, the only reason I came out, Trill did their grand opening. Quick was there for the opening, called me up, come down. I walk in, there's a line. All these kids are getting quick to sign the book. I'm like, I'm not waiting this line. I walked in front of the line, I kicked his chair. What's up, motherfucker? Hey! He started screaming and hugging me. So Chuck came running over. Everything all right? Quick is like, this is SAR, TMB, RTW, Rolling Thunder Riders, one of my boys. We used to paint trains together. And he's like, you live here in Arizona? Don't go nowhere. I got to talk to you before you leave. Right. And a couple of weeks later, he wrote me in and I was doing a show, you know. Absolutely. And here I go again. But, you know, I'm going to keep going until the wheels fall off. I'm going to keep painting because it's who I am. It's part of who I am. SAR is my alter ego. If I like it or not, it's part of history. Right. Sure. You know, I sound like I'm bragging, but you know how many books I'm in, and I was in the Videograph documentaries and all over the internet. I do it because I love it. I'm not trying to be famous anymore. Like if I do one more piece or 1,000 more pieces, it's not going to change my identity or my ego. It's just like it's what I do. I'm a writer, you know. But I just when people are like, yeah, I used to write. No, you didn't. I used to write on what train line did you write on? I wrote on the 5 train. Blade, who was the king of the 5s with Comet. Blade, you ever see him on the 5 train? Never. That's what I thought. You know, and you got to remember, this is a tight community. You can't bullshit your way through it. You know, people check. I do a piece here on a wall here. I got guys hitting me up in fucking Brooklyn. Hey, I saw you and Zokes did a piece today. That's how quick it travels with the power of the phones and the internet and the, you know, documentation. But like, I could go on and ramble on. You have any specific questions you want to ask me? Feel free. First, you know, you always remember the first time you make love, right? First time I went to the trains, out to the layup. I was on a station tagging, and then up sneaking on the station with Syke and Rocky, two of my friends from the neighborhood, and they were like, "Hey, come on, we're going out to the layup." And I was like, "Okay." And then we start walking out to the train. I'm on this 5-board catwalk. I'm looking at the stores on Jamaica Avenue,
Right.
and I'm like, "We're way up here." We start to cross the tracks now. Here's the tracks. There's the train.
Yeah.
I got to walk across, and there's gaping holes between the tracks where you could fall to your death. And as I start to walk, Rocky turns around and looks at me and he says, "We lose a lot of good men here. Be careful." So now I froze.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a kid. Don't forget. I'm not a 25-year-old. I'm a 12-year-old.
Right.
I froze. I'm like, damn. And he's like, Syke goes, "You'll be all right. Come on." I says, "What if we get raided? What's the escape plan?"
Yeah.
He smiled at me. He's like, "You thinking about that already? Good." He goes, "See those poles? Yeah, we're going to go down like Batman." I was like,
Right.
"What?"
Right.
Yeah, that's the way we go down.
Yeah.
Because there was bolts. So your sneaker tips or your sneakers would go on the bolts and you hold on to the beam and you just kind of walk down.
Get the FDN wires.
It's like walking down like Spider-Man.
Right.
So I was like, okay, that was the first time. That's a memorable moment.
Yeah.
A second time, I was walking out on the tracks with my buddy George, who passed away. He used to write Nova, and we were walking out on the tracks. And I said, "Hey, we were taking photos that day. I must have been about 13,
Yeah.
1977. So I'm walking out to the train, and I see two guys taking pictures, standing next to their pieces. I said, "See who they are." I walk over, and I go, "Oh shit, it's Satch." Satch, I knew because he lived on my block.
Yeah.
I go, "The guy with the long hair, that must be Iz, because they're partners."
Yeah.
So we walk up. I'm like, "What's up, Satch?" He's like, "Hey, SAR, what's up, kid?" I said, "How you doing? How you doing?" I said, "You must be Iz the Wiz." He goes, "No, I'm CI." Because he had just did CI throw-ups on the train.
Yeah.
I go, "CI stands for Crazy Iz." He starts laughing. I go, "I used to write with Syke. Syke taught me." And he was like, "What's up?" And we started laughing. That was the first time I met Iz the Wiz.
Right.
And he put me in, they were bringing back a crew, Prisoners of Graffiti, POG. And he put me in POG that day.
Okay.
It was one of the first big crews. That and Beat the City were the first two crews I put up as a new writer.
Okay.
And I remember going home going, "Wow, Iz the Wiz put me in the Prisoners of Graffiti." He was a recruiter for that crew. And it's like, I wanted to be in TMB. He didn't put me in TMB.
Yeah.
So later on in life, he made me the vice president of TMB. And there's an interview of him on YouTube. Who is Iz the Wiz? You could watch it, and it's in his own words.
Okay.
And he talks about meeting me for the first time. He goes, "I didn't want to corrupt the morals of a minor. I was like 16, and he was like 12.
Yeah.
But he was already bombing. He was already bombing anyway. So,
Yeah.
and we hooked up afterwards, and it was like we never stopped. He was one of my close friends, and he died at a very young age, unfortunately. But think about this. I mean, the kind of impact he had. When he passed away, they did a full-page ad in the New York Times. Famous graffiti writer Iz the Wiz dies.
Oh, that's
Full page in the New York Times. Mike, his name was Mike, would have never believed that would have been his memorial.
right.
You know, pretty cool stuff. And the third one was, I'll give a shout out to my buddy Zokes. I got sick 3 years ago, and I had inoperable throat cancer. That's why I got this nice raspy voice. My voice was always a little raspy, but it's worse. And they weren't sure how I was going to react to. They couldn't operate. They were going to have to remove half my neck and my face, and so I took a beating. I was a big guy. I used to be like 240 pounds of muscle. I was bodybuilding shit.
Yeah.
I went down 160 pounds, lost 80 pounds, and I was really sick. So I hadn't painted a train in a long time, and I just got finished with my treatments, and I went out for the first night, and Zork says, "Hey, let's go paint the train." I said, "Nah, come on." And it was like medicine.
Yeah.
First time I painted a train in I don't know how many years.
Right.
and I left there, and it was like medicine. I started to feel, it was like I didn't need the meds I was on. It's like I felt good.
Exactly.
It was like re-energized me.
Yeah.
You know, it's the only thing that really makes me feel free is the artistic creativity behind it.
Yeah.
And I like to surprise myself. Once in a while, I'll have a sketch. 80% of the time, 90% of the time, I don't.
Yeah.
And my friends, anybody in the writing world will tell you that. I just, Iz used to say, whatever comes to me, I create. And I feel the same way. Whatever comes to me, I create. Sometimes I'll try something new, and that's the experimental part of it. Sometimes it comes out great. Sometimes you go, what happened?
Right, right.
But
Yeah.
that's what creates growth.
Absolutely.
You know, you want to take it to the next level. But those are the three. I don't know. You know, just staying healthy. You know, staying healthy, and you know, I like to be there. I'm not doing this to make a living. I do this because I love it. You know, if I could, you know, they want me to put together some kind of program where I could teach people like a history. Like they have these hip hop cinema classes in school and stuff.
Yeah.
My wife is like, you're a great public speaker. Go up there and give them the history of graffiti. People are interested in that. They'll pay you to speak.
I can see it happening.
You know, and I could talk about graffiti. And every interview I did, I'm so long-winded, and I segue into every memory creates another memory and causes me, and it becomes a domino effect. And that's the way my mind works. Right. And my mind can't catch up to my mouth sometimes, and I'll keep going. Yeah. But I just think that's something I would like to do, some public engagements where I give people a history of graffiti that they don't really know about or they want to know about. And, you know, like, you know, have an auditorium where I could do like a slideshow with some photographs and talk about them and do a question and answer. That kind of thing excites me. I like to teach people about graffiti. I think that's what I use my Instagram for the most part.
Absolutely.
You know, I like to do a book. I like to do a book with my memoirs and photographs. I had Jim Prigoff, the author of Spray Can Art.
Yes.
He was going to do my book, and unfortunately Jim passed away. I got to connect with him. I went to the opening of the Museum of Miami that was run by Ket. Ket was nice enough to invite me down, and me and Blade went together. And as soon as I walked in the door, there was Jim, 90 years old, hugging me, telling people from Germany, he never comes to these functions. You got to get him to sign your book and stuff like that. Cool stuff. But he said to me, did you ever do anything with your photographs? He said, no, let's do a book. I got somebody that'll publish you. And he emailed me a couple of times. In one of his blogs, he talks about how he saved his life. He was down in the Bronx photographing some walls me and Satch did. And there was a train coming, and he kind of froze, and I jumped on the tracks and grabbed him and pulled him to safety. He always tells everybody, so I saved my life. You don't understand. Yeah. The train was coming, I just froze.
Right.
You know, funny stuff. That was 33, 34 years ago. But yeah, I always come in and, you know, Iz used to say, every now and then I'll come back just to let people know I'm still around. I kind of feel that way, you know, but to me it's still fun, because I think if I had to make my living as an artist, it wouldn't be fun, because then you have those parameters and those deadlines. Oh, yeah. And once it becomes work and it's not your passion no more, right. I don't want that. I want it to stay fresh. You know, if I feel like drawing, I draw. If I feel like painting, I paint. You know, and then like when I have a fan, especially a guy from back in the day, yo, SAR, man, great to hear from you. Oh, I'd like to get a painting of yours. That's what energizes me. You know, it's about posterity and being remembered. You know, you want to say, did you make your mark? No, I didn't make a mark. I made a fucking dent. That's what I made. You know. I think. What was the movie, Bronx Tale? Would you rather be loved or feared? And I think he said both. Yeah. It's hard to be both. I think I lived my life under one guideline. It's respect. And my grandfather, who came here from Italy, from Sicily, at the age of 8, used to tell me as a little boy, respect everyone and fear nobody. And he said, a coward dies 1,000 times. Yeah. You got to die once, grandson. You got to die once. Right. You know, and to me, it's about respect and people that I love in my life. You know, my wife is my foundation, my kids, you know, my brother. I have one brother. We're very close. You know, we got each other's back 24/7. I got a nice community of friends here in Arizona that have embraced me, and I try to bestow upon them anything that they need to know about the history. I don't like when people change history or bullshit them about the history of graffiti, so I try to enlighten them on anything they have questions about, things like that. But yeah, it's nice to be thought of as a positive note, you know. And I respect everybody that keeps this art I love alive. All right, this is SAR TMB signing out. I want to say hello to Karen and Marissa, Louis and Vincent, my brother Sal, his wife Michelle, and wish my mom was here to see this. She was the only one that supported this from day one. Have a good night, everybody.
And there you have it. Man, shout out to my brother SAR. You know, sir, you are a true legend. And, you know, it was just an absolute honor to have you on this platform, blessing us with all of your knowledge, all of the stories and the history that pertain from way back in the day. So everything that's going on now in the graffiti culture. You know, a lot of people need to know these things, man. You know, they need to do a documentary on you for sure, man, because, I mean, it's just like we could go on and on, you know, but I really appreciate it, man. And, you know, this was truly an honor, a lot of fun, and I wish you nothing but the best and nothing less, my brother. Thank you so much again. Make sure you guys are following him on social media. And shout out to my brother, Jimmy Nelson, on that camera. Make sure you guys subscribe to that YouTube channel. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Let's get the numbers up, and let's keep this going, y'all. All right. Well, this was definitely one for the books, but I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, though. Until next time, stay tuned, stay blessed, stay healthy, and just give me 5, y'all.
Everything you get, you got the world.